Hey, you might be asking, what am I going to do with a 6-foot chunk of cottonwood bark? Well, I don't know. Let's take this and let's make another little owl. I'll show you how I did it. So I'm just going to take the end of this up here is kind of split off. It's really pretty thin and comes to a sharp point. I'm going to save it. I might find a use for it. I'm going to cut that off and we'll see what we have there. There's kind of a hollow spot here too. We might take that off and another piece, get down into here for this owl project. So I'm just going to buzz that off quick in the bandsaw. That piece isn't very big, won't save that one. I think I want to get down here to the thicker part for the owl project. We'll take another piece off to save for something else, and then we'll cut a little piece off for the owl. All right, I'll go put these away, and we're left with a nice little piece here we can make an owl on, and we'll probably leave some of the bark here like he's sitting on a branch or something. Okay, let's just get into this, make this little owl project out of cottonwood bark. Now this is off of a huge cottonwood tree back in my hometown, and I just picked up some of it. I do have another source for some cottonwood bark. I'm considering harvesting some of that and putting that on my website, huntersmake.com, and allowing that to be for sale on there. So we'll see. Just kind of keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know if we do actually do that. Anyway, the area this grows in is really sandy soil, and some of that sandy soil just from wind blown or growing up, lifting up as a tree grew or whatever, there's sand in this bark a little bit. So I don't want to start off with my nice carving knives to get rid of some of that bark. Make sure you get your carving glove and thumb guard on. And I just grabbed a utility knife from the drawer. This is just a standard utility knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off some of the bark layer here just to kind of prepare the surface for my better knives. One thing, I was looking at this piece, we got a little bit of a curvature here on the back. And I want to be able to hang this up or maybe put a magnet in it or something. So one of the things I want to do is kind of flatten this out. I don't want to cut too much off of this side and lose this detail, but I will take some off of here. This wasn't a new sharp blade in this knife. I just grabbed it out of the drawer and started using it here. So and kind of flatten that out a little bit. Enough that we can get it on a wall. And then we take just a little bit off of this side. Again, this is just to kind of flatten out the backside to hang it or mount it somewhere. Okay, that looks flat-ish. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is the front here. I think what I want to do is kind of leave this bark sticking out and some across the bottom. So I'm just going to take the bark off the front here, around this corner a little bit, and kind of up into there, and we'll carve the owl into that piece. So this, again, with the utility knife here. I don't know if you can hear it in the video or not. We're getting quite a bit of rain again. We've been getting a lot of rain this summer, spring. It's kind of a messy part. Working with cottonwood bark is kind of getting down to the part you want to carve. I didn't leave the bark across here like I wanted to. I'm too carried away here. Well, this has been sitting in my garage for a couple years. It's really dried out. Kind of has a hard crust on it. Let's see. Since I didn't do what I wanted to and leave that bark all the way across there, I might take this down a little bit more here. You know, sometimes plan something out and you goof up, and then you just got to kind of change your plan a little bit. Just keep going. Since I have most of this off here, we'll just clean it up down to some nicer stuff. Okay, clean up this mess here, and we'll switch over to the other carving knives and get after it. Okay, here we go. We got the outside crusty parts cleaned off that we want to get rid of. We're going to keep this. I like the look of it. It just kind of lets us know it was cottonwood bark, along with the color and everything. But okay, now I'm going to switch over to the Badger State Blades knife, and just going to kind of clean this up a little bit more, smooth it out. That utility knife blade is pretty beat up, was pretty dull. So we didn't get the best cut on there. So I'm just going to kind of go over this and clean it up, smooth it out a little bit. Okay, now that we have the crusty, sandy outside part of this removed. We're going to save this piece over here just for the look. And we're going to grab one of the wood carver's most important tools here, pencil. I'm going to start planning this out. Now, like I said, ideally, originally I wanted to save that bark coming around here and have a owl just kind of sitting on there. What I think I'm going to do instead is maybe we will kind of come off of this spot here and, I don't know, something like this. We'll kind of carve in a little branch sticking out this way. We'll make this a branch in here. And we'll carve this back, have the owl sitting on that branch. So you have the owl sitting maybe a foot here and coming over the branch a little bit. Nope. Let's bring it over this way a little more. Something like this. A little bit of a space, and we'll leave another block here for the other foot. Okay. So let's start with that. We're going to come in here, start bringing this all back. I'm going to mark out, just do some stop cuts here, just like we did in the other video for the owl. We're going to do some stop cuts to mark out the blocks of the feet here. If you haven't carved in cottonwood bark before, what you need to know about it is it can be kind of, I don't want to say brittle, but it will come off in chips more so than like basswood does. So you just got to keep that in mind. Come in here. Just kind of starting to set back these feet areas. Started carving into this one already. The last owl video, if you haven't seen it, you can check it out. There was a little bit of a lighting issue there. At some points in there, it was hard to see some of the detail on there. Just something changed. And didn't have things quite right. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing another owl. It's just to kind of show you the same cuts in the process. I didn't want to, I thought about just doing another, just kind of redoing that video. However, I don't typically like to do multiple carvings, the same thing. I think the only thing I've really ever done that on was Santa carvings, Santa ornament carvings, which was the very first video that I put on the channel. Okay, now that we kind of have our feet identified, okay, and we'll know that right here is about where that branch that we're going to carve will be. And we can round the bottom of that branch a little bit. We can work the details out of that later. Okay, I'm going to just bring the rest of it back some. It's kind of snapping through the layers in this bark. There's kind of like a hard layer and then a soft layer in between them. And it just kind of, if you're pushing straight in, you might have heard that popping. That's kind of what that was about. I'm going to grab our pencil again, and just as before, I think I want to have the head turned slightly. I just like the way that looks. So our feet are kind of coming out this way. Let's make the corner of the head over here, right on the corner of this, and we'll bring it over maybe like this. Work on cutting this back at an angle, like down towards the back of the head, and we'll put some empty space up here. We'll just kind of start in with some V cuts. I'm doing is trying to create some negative space here behind the head without taking away from this nice bark edge we have over here. So it's just going to be a matter of cutting that out behind there. Here we're going to bring the front of the head back a little bit. And the back of the head front. And a little bit lower here and just kind of make some of our scoop cuts. Kind of define the front of the head, place for the face and eyes. Kind of soften that a little bit. Okay, then right in the center here, we want to mark out our beak. It's probably hard to see that on there. I'm going to use this gel pen. It's the one I use to sign my carvings, but it should show up better for you. Something like that. We might bring it down a little bit more of a peak. Now again, with cottonwood bark, it's kind of flaky, or it chips easy. So when we're doing stop cuts for details like this, the trick is to not go very deep at a time. It's easy, relatively easy to carve. But you got to be a little bit careful and understand that it will chip and flake if you get too aggressive with it. Just the pressure of the sides of your blade going in there can split off little pieces. So just take it easy around the top corners off. We will end up doing a little more with that. I just kind of wanted to get its shape going here, and then we'll cut back, do some more scoop cuts next to that, kind of creating a space for our eyes. Just need that tip of that beak to pop out a little more. Okay, then we're going to come up here and we'll work on kind of forming the top of the head. Okay, we're just going to come up here and kind of make so shallow V cuts towards the center of the head, kind of giving it that horned owl look. It was kind of, after the last owl video, I didn't really know if there was a certain type of owl that I was carving, and just carved what kind of from memory what I would think an owl looked like. And after I carved it, I was looking at the owl and trying to look at different owl pictures. And, well, what owl did I carve? Maybe it's like a great horned owl or something, but it didn't look quite right either. And then it occurred to me, I think the owl that I carved in that last video, I don't know how old everybody is that's watching, but if you remember the Tootsie Pop commercials where the owl is sitting there and he asks you how many licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, I think that's the owl I carved. I think that's what was stuck in my head. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Getting a little bit too close to my beak up here. That's all right. I want to bring it back down in the back here. This side of the back of the head is kind of like it's coming out of the bark, coming out of the piece of wood. As before, we're gonna just kind of follow this arc down, kind of create those feather horn looking things, you know, kind of Tootsie Pop owl has. And again, just I can't stress that enough, that if you're new to cottonwood bark carving, just you've been doing carving with basswood, it is a little different. You gotta take it easy, especially around the details here, to try to get everything to come off without chipping off. I like carving cottonwood bark. It's a little different. Have a nice change. Okay, we'll do this side over here. Okay. And again, we'll take a little bit more of a scoop cut here. Okay. It's kind of coming together. I think we'll take this, bridge this across here, and cut the top of the beak back in, just to kind of give that line continuation across here. And I think that will look better. Okay, and then we'll bring this in a little bit here and curve it down towards the feet just a little bit, just so it's not straight up and down over there, just to give it a shape like this and round it over. And we'll kind of do the same here, and we'll remove this material in here. I'm going to draw these lines in a little darker. The pencil just doesn't show up very good on here, so I'm going to use this pen just so I can kind of keep track. That's going to be kind of curved. I'm bringing it out a little more here, curve it. That's the guide we'll use. I'm going to cut away from that, make a stop cut. And this I can be a little more aggressive on because this is all going to be waste material out here. A little bit more gentle as we get up here to this corner that's going to stick out. I'm going to try to come in right here on the edge of the bark. I mean, it's all bark, but you know what I mean. The crusty bark. The exposed to the weather for decades bark. Okay, let's come over here and we can clean this side up pretty quick. We need to bring the front of this back a little further here on this side. We don't have quite enough there for his claws. Tree grippers. Just trying to carefully clean out in between the feet here. I think we got the tops of these feet a little too high. Okay. I think I'm going to switch over to my detail knife. Start cleaning up some of this stuff back in here. And we'll put a little bit of an arc in the center out here. Well, this is getting pretty thin out here for cottonwood bark. See how much that little curve adds to it? I'm going to do that on this side. Just kind of supporting this with my finger just to kind of, in case I push a little harder or something, I don't want it to chip off of there. Just making tiny little adjustments up here. It's a tight spot. I think that looks pretty good. I just want to clean it up a little more. And as I did to kind of accent this a little more here, very carefully, This is getting pretty thin out here. Just kind of shave it down on the point. Like I'll need to take a little more underneath. Okay. Next, I want to mark out the rings around the eyes. And a way I've found to do that, kind of, I don't have a lot of different sizes, but it happens to be that I have this this little punch. It's like from a grommet set I have. The cheap little punch. Anyway, it's a kind of a sharpened tube. I'm going to bring that in here. Kind of close. Just push and give it a little twist. And that gives me a pretty nice circle. I'm going to position this one in a similar manner. Now you can find some different sized tubing pieces, diameters, and just sharpen one end of it a little bit and make your own set of those. Or Amazon does have some, I think they call them leather hole punches. I can throw some of those in an affiliate link too. They're relatively inexpensive. You can get a set like from 1/8 inch up to a 1/2 inch or something like that. And well, I grabbed want this detail knife in here, and they're $10-12, something like that. But then you'd have a nice little set, all these different sizes, so kind of matched up to the size of carving you're doing. If you're really good at drawing circles, it's maybe not necessary. I just did a stop cut around that. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. We don't want it to be a harsh line. Takes a little doing, careful doing up here. Then here beside the beak, we'll just kind of clean that corner out. And we'll do the same over on this side. Just kind of taking a second to look at the general shape here. And I want to curve the bottom of the feet back towards the branch. Okay, and now I just need to kind of, I like how this one is looking over here for size and shape. So I need to kind of replicate that over here. And I think this whole thing needs to come back a little bit. Not too much. Take this one back. Cut the bottom front in, just like we did on the other one. Just trying to carefully balance these out. Get them to look right. This one looks a little different. I think it's kind of like the position of that branch, how I have him sitting there. I think that's going to be good enough. Okay, I've gone ahead and drawn in the wings and some eyeballs. So again, we're just going to, not very deep, we're just going to draw along those lines with our knife. Angling away from the wing just a little bit, slightly. And we'll just cut up to those. Again, just shaving it off there. We don't have to be real deep here. We're just kind of indicating the wing laying across there. And we'll do the same on this side. Just make sure I get all my pen marks off. Up a little bit deeper right in the center here. Kind of chip that side of the wing off. We can make this side a little bit deeper. Wasn't enough of a shadow there. That looks pretty good. A little bit of a hump right here. Okay, now for the stressful part, very carefully turning the piece and moving the knife along slightly carefully. I'm going to try to get these eyeballs. Well, the reason I say it's stressful is we're towards the end of the carving, and this flaky material that likes to chip out if you don't do everything just right. So you want to take your time, go slow, and just be as controlled as you can be. You don't have to try to do the full motion all the way around all at once. I'm just using the tip of my knife. Went in here, making a little bit of an angled cut back up to that stop cut I just made. What we're doing when we do that is kind of dishing out that ring that's around the eye, while at the same time making the eyeball stand out. Now on the top side, it's kind of hard to do. Just want to use the tip of your knife and just do little tiny bits at a time. Something like that. Okay, do the same thing on this side. Just stay in a low angle, low as you can, and just pay close attention to where the tip of your knife is. Just work it around to that stop cut. The last thing I want to do on here is just cut in some little V cuts to indicate between his claws. There's one. Make another one over here. And then down here at the bottom, I'm just angling them kind of down to a point here. Making these tiny little triangle cuts. I'll do the same thing over here. See what I mean by chipping out? I kind of broke the end of this toe off over here, claw. That center one's pretty thick. We'll try to... Some areas of this bark is a little more delicate than others. I think that's pretty typical. And there's going to be the usual messing around, cleaning things up that I do. But I won't bore you to death with that. All right, there you have it. Tiny little owl carved out of a 6 foot, actually it was more like 6.5 foot piece of cottonwood bark. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. If you have carved cottonwood bark before, if you'd like to give it a try. I think it's kind of nice to go to a different medium once in a while. Anyway, I'm gonna go put some oil on this, and then I'll come right back. All right, I just put some oil on there and let it soak in a while, and then I kind of wiped off the excess. It doesn't soak in quite as fast on this as it does on basswood. But there it is, finished little owl on a piece of cottonwood bark. Hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you did, go ahead and subscribe and leave a like, and let me know if you have any comments about cottonwood bark, if you'd like to see more of it or just stick to the basswood. All right, thanks for watching.